We're afraid of what people will think, or we're afraid we're not good enough, or we're afraid we're too much. And so we hold ourselves back. When we do that, we're muting ourselves. And there are too many people that are muting themselves in the world. And I, for so many years, was one of them. I've discovered the power of unmuting myself, of showing up in the world in a way that is joyfully expressed and boldly alive. That's something that has been so important to me as I've discovered how freeing it is to be unmuted, to unmute our body and to unmute our ideas and to unmute our desires, to unmute ourselves in relationships and at work, and to be our own advocates and to ask for what we want and need. The unmuted life is a life that is fully alive and fully expressed and confident and clear. And to me, it's the only way that I know how to live now. I know what it's like to feel confined and stuck and small and silenced. And I also know what it feels like to be expressed and alive and joyful and present and seen. And it's so much better of a life to be unmuted. And that is what I want to bring you into. Are you ready to unmute yourself? Let's make it happen. Hey there, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Happy Unmuted Wednesday. We usually get together on Mondays, but with the holiday this week, wanted to bump us to Wednesday. I'm so excited for everyone to be here. Let us know where you're joining us from. We've got David here from Missouri. Wonderful to have you, David. David is such an affirming and generous person in terms of using such intentional words. So David, I really appreciate your support and the messages and whatnot that you send. I so appreciate it. Naveen, welcome, welcome. Jill, so great to have you here. Let's see, Mohammed, welcome. Nathan, glad you're here. Frank, who else am I missing? Carla and Tom, fantastic that you are here today. This is going to be a great conversation. I am so excited. This is a conversation I've wanted to have on the show. We're coming up on the third year in January, and this is a conversation that I've wanted to have for a while. And so I'm really, really excited about it. So again, let us know where you're joining us from in the comments. And one thing I wanted to share with everybody is that, and Rich is here from Madison, Wisconsin. Woo woo. Good to have you, Rich. It's been a while. It's so good to see you. I wanted to let all of you know that I have the mix of my next song. I didn't see it coming, and it's going to be released within the next 3 weeks. So it's being mixed and mastered right now, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you once it is officially live. Krista, no worries. Can't unmute. Cleaning crew here, no worries. And Naveen from India, welcome, welcome. So yeah, I'm so excited for you all to hear it. I'm really proud of the song. It's a redemptive song that has taken something that really was the most difficult thing I've been through in my life, my car accident in May of 2020, and choosing to say that's not how the story ends, that we can rise up from the moments where we get knocked down. So for anyone that's had those moments where you feel knocked down, where you feel down and out, where you feel discouraged, where you feel despair, this song is for you. This is an anthem for you. So I am so excited to share it with all of you. Allie, welcome from Colorado. Good to have you here. And so stay tuned, pun completely intended, for the release of that song. I do not have an update yet on my TEDx. It's been 2 months, but hopefully I'll get it the next 2 months. I don't know. So I'll let you know as soon as that happens as well. So our opening question today, we always start the show with a question just to get everybody in the chat kind of learning about each other and thinking about what we're going to talk about today. So the question we have for you today is, what is your favorite form of movement? What's your favorite way to move your body? And if you want to add a bonus in, you can say why. So your favorite way to move your body and why. And when I think of my favorite way to move my body, it's definitely through dance. And our guest today has really helped me with that, of moving from that place of, a lot of times when we're little kids, we're not really self-conscious at all. And we let ourselves just kind of dance and prance around without a care in the world. I was kind of a guarded kid. I really didn't let myself do that. I never took dance classes, never took ballet, never took gymnastics, never took anything that really invited me to sort of be in my body and connected to my body in that way. And our guest today, who I'll introduce in just a moment, really helps me find that sense of connection and joy. And I'm so grateful for that. So let us know, favorite way to move your body, favorite form of movement. Let us know what that is and why. Ooh, Tom says rucking. I love to hike, but rucking has made it more challenging and fun. Love that. Thanks for sharing. And hey, good to see you here. Good to see you here, Paul. Any type of sports. Jill says swimming. It makes me feel free and light. It's a beautiful feeling, isn't it? To feel free and light in your body. Something that, I don't know, I don't always feel. So another swimmer here in the comments. Favorite form of movement, favorite way to move your body. And we're going to be taking this to like a deeper level than you think. This is not going to just be a conversation about here's why you should exercise. No, we're going to really be getting into the core of why movement is healing and powerful and how we can get more connected to our body in a deep and meaningful way. That's really what we're going to dig into today. So just a heads up. Anything else that comes to mind for you about your favorite way to move your body? Walking with my dog, Carla says. That's a good one. It's a good combination because you have company and you're moving and you're outside. So that's sort of like a trifecta. Being outside in nature with a furry friend and moving your body. Awesome. Feel free to keep them coming if anybody else has any that you want to add. I think that's all I have for announcements for today. So today's guest, I met, I don't know, probably known her 15 years, something like that, in terms of when we met. I have known her husband since I was, I think, 5 years old. And when she joined their family, it was just such a special addition because she's somebody that over the past 10 years, I've gotten to connect with in a way that has helped me to find healing in my body and in my soul, in ways that have given me release and relief, in ways that have helped me to be more playful and have more fun and be less self-conscious, in ways that have helped me to sort of go back to being silly. It's like as adults, we have to be very serious. And she's helped me to be silly. There have been some workshops that she and her husband have led together that my husband and I have gone to help get more present and connected in our bodies so that we can be more connected as a couple. And so there's so many things. She's somebody who taught a class at the gym I went to. This was 10 years ago, a class called Nia. I'll let her share more about that when she comes on. But it was something that I would look in the room. Have you ever done this? Have you ever looked in on a class, like at the gym or some class, and been like, that looks weird. I don't know. And I remember looking into the room and being like, I don't know that I have the confidence in myself to do that, to dance around this room in what looks like total freestyle. I'm not really sure that I am comfortable enough with myself to do that. So she sort of would pleasantly nudge me. And then probably a year and a half after she started saying, hey, come to my class, I finally went with someone. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a level of freedom in and connection to my body that I haven't experienced in my adult life. And then from there, I went to classes for years that she taught. So Lola Manekin is somebody who is a body alchemist. She's somebody who is a retreat leader, who is an acupuncturist, who has such depth in her spirit and a desire to grow and learn in a way that few people I've met have a deep desire to grow and learn in every aspect of her life. And she helps other people do that too. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Lola Manekin.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Do you remember those days when you were trying to like invite me to come to this class? And I was just like,
Yep. There were many women that needed that little love. There was a part of their soul and their body that was so ready. And it was just a little reassurance of like, you got this, I got you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, I want to hear a little about we'll dig into your story in a little bit, but I know I've mentioned what NIA is. I know it's part of something that you've done as, an instructor, as a guide. I'm curious, like, what does that, I know it stands for something. If you could just share with a little bit, because I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, so NIA was just the beginning of the path. I actually don't call what I teach NIA anymore. I'm not connected to that in any ways. But basically, this embodiment practice that it's been offered, that I continue to offer for all these years, is a combination of tons of different movement styles, the yoga and the martial arts and different kinds of dance. And when we bring that into a 1 hour class, it invites all these different ways that we can show up in the world. Mm-hmm. And it invites the body to also learn how to be in all these different ways, So when I'm moving slow and I'm inviting that slowness out of me, and for some people, that's how they live life. So that's like, yeah, this is easy for me. But for those that go on the dance floor, they can be moving slow and being like, okay, I need more of this in my life, and then we can move to a crazy martial arts song and we're punching and we're saying yes and no. And for some people, hi Naveen, and for some people, it can be like, it's easy. I know how to shout. I know how to set boundaries. And for some people, I'm like, oh my God, I never spoke louder than this. So it's really, we allow life to move through us on the dance floor in a container that feels really safe. And for those who are using this form of movement like you to continue being in the journey of the soul, we take those experiences out of the dance floor and being like, how can I now apply and integrate those versions of myself into this real life? Because life is a dance floor.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And all those moves, like I remember, I think initially I'd be like a little bit uncomfortable with the things that were like more martial arts in nature. I never did anything like that. So the ones that were like, where you'd like make a sound, I would think our natural tendency, if we haven't done something in our body, especially the older we get, is to just go to this place of feeling self-conscious. Mm-hmm. And when we step forward and do the thing anyway, even though we feel self-conscious, even though we might feel a little bit silly, even though we're like, this is so uncomfortable, the more we do it and the more we're surrounded in community with other people that are also saying like, yes, I'm stepping forward too. Mm-hmm. I find that the support of the community is something that is a really powerful thing too, that like when the people around us are getting unmuted, so to speak, in that way, that it gives us the courage to do that too.
Totally. I remember when I was in Costa Rica one time and I was doing this breath work. And the only prompt that we had is that as soon as you begin to feel the tingling in the body, because when you do this, conscious connected breathing, the body gets tingly and there's all these different sensations. And the prompt was, when you begin to feel that, you have to throw a temper tantrum. So you're on the ground like, and there was 70 of us in the room. And every single time one would have the courage to do it. And as soon as that one did it, the whole room would go like jungle. And then everything will calm down. And then, so we do give permission to each other to unmute, right? Through having our own courage to unmute ourselves.
Yeah. And that's helped me so much, because when you're with other people, you're like, well, if they're doing this thing and they're okay with it, maybe I could be okay with it too, Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's been so tremendous. And so I'm curious if you think of a way in your life, I mean, there could be 1,000 stories you could have about this, but an area of your life that you muted at some point, and any path or journey that you went on to unmute that part of yourself, and what that looked like.
Thank you for asking. I was thinking, because I knew this answer was going to come. There's two different things. One thing that I continue to work with my own clients and in my own life, because when I first heard you saying that, I thought of unmuting something specifically on the throat, which is going to be the story that I'm actually going to share. But what I was thinking on the greater scheme of things, right, is that when we are born as children, we are born completely unmuted, right? It's like as parents or as aunts and uncles, we know exactly when a child is angry, is hungry, is sleepy. It's because it's this idea of what's true is coming through moment by moment. And then life begins to happen, and and we begin to wear this like masks, right? I'm like, okay, at work I need to be this person so I can keep my job. And when I'm with my parents, I have to be this way because that's how they like me. Or and I almost feel like, in Chinese medicine, it's something that we say in the fire element. It's about wearing masks. And then years go by, and we don't even recognize who we are anymore because there's so many layers of masks that it's like, actually, who am I? Who am I? So I was thinking of the unmuting is this experience that we go through in life over and over again that allows us to peel that one mask out. And sometimes it is on the dance floor. And sometimes it's a thick mask that it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of movement or therapy or breath work or whatever, or walking the animals or whatever it is. It takes time. And some of them can be just like, there's these versions of ourselves that we're just ready to release. And when we create that one little space, it just goes. So this idea that I really love of unmuting is really just peeling masks off, because we were born fully capable of being truthful and authentic and real.
Yes.
So that's a bigger, version that I came to me when I was listening to you talking. And one of my stories of unmuting, I was like, there's really two that I was in between to share. I am going to tell them on the voice. I have nodules in my thyroid, and I knew as an integrative medicine practitioner, I know that every physical symptom is connected to something that the soul is calling us to awaken to, So I was living in Brazil during the pandemic, and I was studying bioenergetic medicine, and I decided to go look at this nodules in my thyroid, and I went to see my teacher, and we scheduled like regular weekly sessions. And I told her I wanted to work on the bioenergetic medicine to help clear whatever's in my subconscious mind that it's, creating these nodules right at my, throat chakra. And it was literally rage on the first treatment. My intuition is very visual. So I'm laying down and I have my eyes closed and she's treating me. And I had this funny visual, which was the movie The Little Mermaid. At the end, you know, when the prince is fighting the bad woman and then the necklace breaks and Ariel's voice goes like, and it like goes back into her throat.
Yes.
And I had that visual and I opened my eyes and I look at my teacher. I'm like, this is so bizarre. You have no idea what I just saw, And we were laughing and I kissed her goodbye and I start driving home. And I'm listening to the song in English. And I started to sing to it in Portuguese, but I wasn't translating the song. I was coming up with my own words. And when I got home, it was like a 25-minute drive. By the time I got home, I had realized that I was being downloaded the lyrics for a song because there was no like, I don't know what rhymes here. Like there was none. It was just like boom, 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 So I come home and I write it down. I write it all down. And I too love singing, and I still in the process of liberating more of my voice. There's a lot of layers of self-consciousness that I'm still working through. But I knew that if I didn't take an action in that very moment, that it was just another like gift from spirit that I just let it pass. So I reached out to a friend of mine who was a music producer, and I said, I have this song and I want to record it. And in the beginning, I just wanted to record it for me. I didn't even like, and he's like, I'm going to give you this guy and he's going to teach you some voice lessons. And it became this big deal. I thought I was just going to go to the studio one day, record it, sound okay, and have that for me. And then I went in this whole journey on voice lessons, on going to studio, and not only recording that music, but being recording spoken poetry. And it was such a powerful experience of unmuting myself, for the reason that I've always had very good ears for music because of the dance. But I'm so picky with music that the idea that I was going to sound anything but perfect through my own ears was like, no. So it's that moment in life that I feel like I had to make a choice, of perfection or bravery, basically, And to finish this, I'm still in the process, still recording, still taking voice lessons, still going through the ups and downs of, oh my God, I sound amazing. Oh my God, I sound horrendous. And I went to a acoustic Thursday here in Baltimore. My friend Mark Avens, he's like, Lola, do you want to come sing with me? And I could feel my whole body like, oh, But because I could feel that, I knew I needed to do it. Like my whole body was like, no, 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 no. So the day of the event comes, and I am freaking out all day. And I call my friend from Israel. She's like kind of like pep talking me to just calm down. And she said, she's like, just go, just allow yourself to be like this, crash and burn. That's what she said, honey, crash and burn, baby. That's all she said. So on my drive to the bar, I had this idea, and this is what I do. I grabbed the microphone in front of everybody and I said, look, I am a beginner at singing. And the people that will line up after me are like professional singers. So I'm like, I'm starting like setting the bar, like really, in my opinion, low. So I said, look, everybody, I'm a beginner at singing. And when Mark called me to come sing with him tonight, I was really, really afraid. But the more I thought about it, I had this thought of, when I am 90 years old and I am telling my grandchildren the story of my life, I definitely don't care about telling them how many music notes I hit perfectly. What I really want to tell my grandchildren is how many times I crashed and burned, how many times I said yes when my whole body was like, no. So I had everybody raise their glass and I said, so let's raise our glass to all the yeses that we say in life. And everybody's like, and that took the pressure completely out of me. And then after that, I just sang and I sang and I sang, and I didn't even care what I sounded like. So that's my story.
That's beautiful. And I can so connect to that, like, because there is that, that feeling of self-consciousness of we decide based on what we hear. And whenever we're listening to music, we're listening to the most produced, typically, version of a song. And we don't realize that if, like, at any point, whoever that person was singing that thing live, it would not sound exactly like that. Studio music sounds different than live music. And to make the choice to say, like, I think all of us have opportunities to choose bravery over perfection. Whether it's at work, whether it's in our bodies, that we're faced with these opportunities sometimes on a daily or weekly basis where it's like, here's the invitation. Do you want to accept the invitation? Because it's there. Or maybe the invitation goes to somebody else. because you did not want to say yes because you had a judgment in your head of what your yes needed to come with. Like the yes needed to come with perfection. The yes needed to come with expertise. The yes needed to come with a certain level of prestige or credibility. And, you know, I think that we hold ourselves back a lot of the time because we're so focused on doing it the best or getting it right, and less focused on just fully stepping into a moment and showing up with whatever we have to give in that moment. So I love that you're doing that. I love that you're stepping into that. And I'm curious, this is a question. How do you think being more embodied, like all the work that you've done to be in your body, to be with your body, to be connected with your body through movement, through integrative medicine, through any of that, how do you think any of that might have helped position you to have the courage to show up in that moment?
That's a great question. I think the body is the only part of ourselves that is actually in the present moment, right? It's like, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, you know? And we got so fancy with the way that we do life and technology. We got fancy through this spiritual practice that everybody just wants to reach, this sort of enlightenment, that it's something that it's out here, you know? And it's only through this vessel that it's in the present moment and that it's responding to the present moment that I feel like it's only this way that the most authentic version of the moment will come through. You know, let me see if there's something else I want to say about that. There is so much, but I think that we have such a limited amount of time on this planet and on these bodies, you know, and sometimes when I'm teaching, I say, look, you know, like, this is your last time in this body, at least, you know, like, what do you want to do? And it's such a question that usually hooks people because we forget this realization all the time, you know, and it's here that we really, I feel like we came to these bodies to learn and master the basics, to see, to really listen, to really smell, to really taste, to touch. You know, we got again so fancy with everything in life that we're literally forgetting the most, you know, basic things of life, that it needs to be done through this body, and yet it's the foundation of every building block of life itself.
Yeah. I feel like there's like this, it's almost like a contagion effect. Like I find that the more that I'm like present in my body, the more that I'm dialed into that, even with the singing thing, like I still get terribly nervous when I sing in front of people, no matter what the format is. Like I've done hundreds, probably approaching 1,000 reps as a speaker, and I feel very confident and comfortable in my ability to do that. But I've done in the dozens, like the low dozens of singing in front of people, like full songs, much less my own music. Like I think it's one of the most vulnerable things that we can do because your voice is such an extension of who you are. That when you're offering that, and you can't necessarily control all of it, you know, like you might sing a song, get hit with an emotion, and you might just need to stop singing for 3 or 4 seconds to bring yourself back online, you know, like I've had that happen before, or you go flat, or your voice breaks, or something happens, or you forget a lyric. And one of the things, I shared this in my TED Talk, is I shared a story about something that happened with my voice teacher, one of my voice teachers who's been on the show before. Her name's Darcy Webb. And she was the person that helped bring out my voice 5 years ago when I went through the speaker training. And one of the things that she said to me that I think will really resonate with you and with anyone that feels like you're stuck in perfection. And maybe drop in the comments, anyone who's with us, if you sometimes get caught up in perfectionism, you can just say, I do, so we know we're not alone. Join the club.
Me.
Like you're in good company. And like, I was singing a snippet of a song at this group of 15 people. It was a gospel song that I had done an audition. And I sang it, and then I finished, and then I went over to her because we were practicing bits of our speeches and getting feedback. So I sang it, and then I went to her, and she said, okay, so what's the problem with the singing thing? Like, kind of why you want to work on this? And I said, I feel like I'm holding myself back. So you were talking about like fully liberating your voice and how much you want, like, I feel the same way of still working on that. And she said, yes, you do. You're holding yourself back. And then she said, what was so profound, she said, what's the lyric again? And I said the lyric, which of the song I was singing, which was, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. Mm-hmm. So the irony of that is not lost on me, that the lyric of the song is like, this morning when I rose, I didn't have no doubt. I mean, if you could pick another line that would really communicate, sing it like you mean it, that would be it, right? Mm-hmm. And as I said it, I started to tear up. And she saw that, and she said, that is what we want. And then she said, my voice teacher always said to me, forget the notes, sing the intention. And she said, these people are here for you. Like, they have just like, sometimes we just need to know people have our back. Like when you said cheer, when you lifted your glass to the room, when you felt like the whole room was rallying with you in that moment, that was them all saying, we have your back. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when we're about to do a scary thing that we don't feel sure about or we feel insecure about, knowing that people are with us and on our team and rooting for us can give us that last bit of courage that we need to like let that out.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
So I'm curious in terms of where you've seen, I mean, I've shared a little bit of my story with how we connected and how you've helped me find more openness in my body. I never thought I'd be hanging upside down on silks doing aerial yoga. That's for darn sure. Among other things. Mm-hmm. But I know that one of the things you asked me, there was a day, and I think for anybody who tends to push themselves a lot, this next story is for you. There was a day I came into the studio. There's a studio called Movement Lab that you were running and teaching classes in, and I came in all flustered from my therapist's office, and I was supposed to take a hip hop dance class. That's what I was planning to do. And I went in there flustered, and you asked me a question along the lines of, what does your body need right now? Or what is your body telling you it needs right now? More like slowing down and stillness, or more energy? And I was like, oh, I for sure know that I need more stillness and slowness. And that's how I made the decision to get out, not go to the hip hop class, because I did not need more intensity in that moment. Mm-hmm. I needed to be grounded, and I went to the yoga class. And when I left, you said, did you honor your body? Mm-hmm. And I did. So I'm curious if you could just share some insight into that. Why do we sometimes tend to override, or what have you seen in people just overriding their body and trying to force it and make it do certain things versus letting that kind of ease and freedom come in?
Mm-hmm. It's the mind, right? I have one teacher one time, he said to me, I was going through a hard journey, and I said to him, it doesn't need to make sense, right? And he said, Lola, it is the mind that makes sense, that tries to make sense of things. And I think that we do spend, and especially, I'm going to dare to say that, especially here in the United States, you know, we didn't talk about it, but I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up on an island in Brazil. Brazilians are very naturally embodied humans. And coming to the United States, it was definitely, you can tell the majority of the people just live from the neck up. So I think that's really what happens. We make the decision based on what the mind thinks it's the right thing, right? And the majority, especially when it comes to movement, the conversation is, I need to burn 1,000 calories. My body needs to look a certain way because the way that it looks right now, I'm not happy with it. So the whole, and look, and then we have this whole industry that supports this thinking, you know? So one of the things when I birthed Movement Lab, it was like, we're not going to have any conversation on, you know, get your workout done this week because it's Thanksgiving next week and you're going to stuff your face off with food. You know, like I've seen these flyers in gyms and I'm like, I can't believe it. So I think that what we need to honor the body is actually to find that moment of taking a breath, which is what you did. You got in, you were like super in your mind, your energy was out here because you were like, late, and it's like, oh, there's like intense energy. And basically what I invited you to do is like, Rachel, close your eyes, just take a deep breath and like feel into it. It's a feeling. It's this, it's a whispering from our angels and our guardians. It's not a mental decision. And it's the more we do it, because people would ask me all the time, how do I know who's talking to me? And it takes the practice, and then we go back to sensation, because the body responds to the present moment. When you meet that person that your body just like, and you're like, why? But I don't even know her. Why do what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's that same wisdom of, is my body closing or is my body opening? Which really is what we do when we do the work with our husbands in sacred intimacy, is what is my man that's sitting right in front of me right now doing? Is he opening me? Is my body relaxing, or is he shutting down? So it takes the practice of the breath, really, that to bring ourselves over and over from the thinking mind to the sensation through the feelings, because we're either a hell yeah or a hell no. There's no hell maybes. That's where the hell maybes in the mind.
Yeah.
So the body's either like all in or all out. And if we get into the maybe, that's a no. That's definitely not a yes, because the yeses are just clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Quick and clear almost. It's like, and if you take a second to pause, because so many of us are running around all the time, that we miss, it's like our body might be sending us a nudge of like, hey, I need some, like, I don't need to, this is not to say to never, push ourselves or anything like that, like, or challenge ourselves, not necessarily push ourselves, but to challenge ourselves physically. Because I know you do, all sorts of things what's it, Budokan? What's the thing that you do that's like?
I do Budokan, I do jujitsu. Yeah.
And like, it's amazing to watch, like even just watch videos of you doing that. But I think, for me, finding that place and knowing that I'm wanting it now, like since my car accident, I mentioned before we came on the show, I felt more contracted in my body again, and I felt more stuck again, and I felt more scared again. And I felt like, oh, can I trust my body to not betray me? And, I think I'm probably not the only one that's felt that way about my body. And recognizing, even looking back to when I felt most alive, what was I doing? When I felt most connected, what was happening? For me, a lot of that was like, I was dancing. I was allowing myself to move more freely. I was in community with other people. I wasn't doing it by myself. And, there was variety, like for me having the variety, whether it was yoga class or a dance class or hanging upside down on the silks or doing the trampolines or whatever, there was always something that sort of invited a different part of me to show up. And so to think to ourselves, like, what activities, is for everyone that's with us, what activities that when you're doing them, do you feel more expansive and open? And what activities when you're doing them, do you feel more like contracted and almost like stuck? And to pay attention, like that's your body telling you something. Is there anything more you'd say about, because I think that's part of unmuting too, is like paying attention to what your body is telling you, this is good. And it's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Like, are you using movement as a way as a way of healing, really? Are you present to what you're doing and you're feeling, even if you're going through like an intense, like a lot of the people that come to the dojo to roll with jujitsu, there's such like a discharge that happens, because it's like we're like, and it's, are you doing it out of just obligation, or like I'll use the example of walking the dog again, are you doing it, are you present to it, are you on your phone when you're walking, right? Are you doing that because the dog needs to go, so that's why you're going? So there's all this things of, there's tremendous amount of healing when we're moving our bodies, if we're really present to it, you know, in a lot of the times injuries, or, you know, if we talk about movement itself, is the lack of presence, you know, because there's one of my favorite quotes says that the body speaks to us in whispers, and when we don't hear it, starts screaming, you know. So at some point, you know, when we're about to do something, about to actually, you know, twist that knee or something, the body probably said something before, but it's a little bit more like a little whisper, right? That if we're not present to it, we won't hear it, you know. But disease is also the same thing, you know, like it's, you know, there's something, dis-ease, we used to talk about that in Chinese medicine. It's when something is not at ease. And the only way that we can heal the body is through the body, is with the body. You know, this is, I mean, how many millions of functions it does every day without us telling, like, hey, heart, beat, you know? It's just this incredible that it's always looking for, it knows how to heal itself. And our job is just to get ourselves out of the way through the mental. So.
Yeah. Well, and Jill says here, she says, I've learned while dealing with a foot dysfunction and feeling very stuck, sometimes different types of movement need to be explored. And that, let's see, goat, I'm not sure what that is, but maybe you know. Seated chair cardio have been lifesavers for me. So sometimes in a season of our life, if we're dealing with injury, I think also something I'm curious about, Lola, is how you've found, like, it's hard for me to have compassion with my body when it's like, when my body is sort of like misbehaving or injured or something else, the tendency is for me to get mad and to have very little compassion, to get mad, to be impatient, be like, oh my gosh, why did you do that? I can't believe you did that. And, or what's going on? Why do you keep, like, it's like yelling at a child is almost like that I'm doing. So I'm curious, like, how do you even, when you've had those moments of even frustration with your body, or when you've seen other people do that, how do you come to a place of compassion and kindness? Because it can be really hard.
Right. I think that the most beautiful thing is that because we're humans, we're allowed to feel it all, you know? So it's almost, there's this part of us that even shame ourselves for being angry at our bodies. I mean, if we stay stuck there, that's a problem, you know? But like with the seasons, you know, like we see the changing, like we as humans move through cycles. Like I'm sure sometimes with Bill, you're like, you know, pissed at him, and then you're happy, and then you're quiet, and then you're super talkative, and you know, and I feel like the first invitation, you know, that I bring to all of my clients is, what if it was okay that right now you are angry? Because it's really not at your body, but you can, what if you allowed yourself to even express that anger? Not, you know, and just like you're in the bed and you're like, F you, and, you know, just because you know, we're so dynamic beings, we're never in one place, we're going to continue to move. But in order for us to continue to move through the cycles, we have to acknowledge, like, all versions, you know, all versions of ourselves. This is one answer. And then the other answer is that what I also do, I had a concussion when I was in Brazil. I was wakeboarding, and I was trying to do this trick where I was, my base is one, and I was just trying to like switch to the other base. And as soon as I did that, the wake locked in the water, and I just went so fast. And I knew in that moment that you know, that I had a concussion. It felt like I just went straight into a brick wall. And I think it took me about 10 days. I was 10 days in bed, you know. And I was just feeling it. That was my commitment to myself. It's like I was right in the midst of the bioenergetic medicine and this deep, like, trust in the body. And I'm like, okay, this is my invitation. I'm doing this, you know? And I would lay down and I would just feel, I mean, my whole body was hurting. You know, I spent a week like just bawling my eyes out. I slept a lot. You know, I watched tons of the Chosen. I don't know if you know the you know the that was like, and then I felt this like deep connection by just watching that show and being like, maybe that was the whole reason why this happened. You know, like I needed to feel this. You know, I always felt I'm not religious at all, but I feel connected to Jesus, and I've never seen the story told that way. So there's this trust that everything is always happening for us, not to us, right? And it's either a momentum that we write it, or it's a lesson that we're invited to pause and be like, all right, what's the lesson here? And it's really what happened to me. You know, I just stayed with that pain and just feeling my body healing and just being like, okay, there's a lesson here. If I don't listen, it's going to come back. And maybe sometimes time it can be worse than a concussion, you know?
Yeah. The allowing. I mean, that's when I think of what it means to unmute ourselves, so much of it is it's like we've learned from the time we're young that like certain emotions are okay to express and other emotions are not. Like you better not show up with that. If you feel that way, you better just like hide in your room and not let anyone know that. And so we learn to just suppress these things that we naturally feel, like anger, especially for women, I think, is that is an off limits. Like you just need to have it together and be okay. And that's sort of a message I felt like I got, because like the put together person, they're not angry. You need to temper that, you know? And I mean, I know even after my accident, I had a tremendous amount of anger. And then when the lawsuit happened, I had more anger come up, and it was really anger and grief, which anger is a part of grief, and to allow that and to allow the tears to come. And I remember one of the things that you shared with me, I'm not even sure what you said that prompted this, but we were doing this session together, this Align Energetic session, which is breath work and other body work and massage and
Energy work, yeah.
energy work. Like it was really powerful. And we were working through some of the trauma from this accident. And one of the things I had shared with you is just some of the anger that I was feeling, you know, about the situation. And I'm not even sure how it came about, but you had suggested like finding some type of a external like object that I could use to sort of signify something about the event. Is there anything that comes to like, can you share a little bit about like what the insight was? And I'm going to share my little friend here.
Oh,
I'm trying to remember.
I mean, there was just this contraction around every time that you remembered the truck that has hit you. You know, it's almost like you couldn't move on in life, because every time that you remember that moment, or every time that you see a truck that looked like that truck, you'll be like, you know, like you would go back to,
Yeah.
you know, for kind of a flight and fight mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it, right?
Yeah. I think that was it. And you were like, could you have something external that's like something that could be a source of comfort? Oh, I know what it was. When we were doing breath work, something that came up for me was that like what I needed, I thought back to where I was in the accident, I had this visual, and I had this memory of what I needed in that moment was to be comforted and held. The thing I couldn't have. So when you get hit by a truck and break your back, people are sort of stay away from you because they don't know. It's a spinal fracture, it's a very sensitive thing, and they have to be very careful, like understandably so. But it was like what I needed most in that moment was to be comforted and held and reassured. And I couldn't get that in that moment, like just for safety reasons. And so we were talking about that. And so I thought what I needed so much is I just needed to comfort myself. And that we have the ability to comfort ourselves and soothe ourselves. We forget that we have the ability to do that. So I found a little goat. I thought of what would be a symbolic thing I could do. So the truck that hit me was a Chevy Silverado. And in the word chèvre in French means goat. So I was like, I'm going to get, the pickup truck that hit me was white. So I'm going to get a white goat and I'm just going to cuddle with it when I'd sleep. And just as like this comfort, it's sort of a symbol of comfort that I didn't have in the moment that I needed. And like, even though it's been over 3 years, that I can still like connect to something like this right now. So I wanted to thank you for that, because it was something I wouldn't have thought to do, but it was something that, you know, I felt like I really needed in that moment. It's some type of, I needed some form of like physical, it's soft, something that was soothing, something that was soft, something that like provided comfort in some way that I could hold on to. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like you sent me a picture of a couple, and I chose the one I preferred. I didn't know if that's what you got, but
This is my favorite. Yeah, so he sits up on my bed, and then I snuggles with me at night. So Bill knows his name too. But and then the last thing I wanted to just touch on is something that we went through, and somebody mentioned this, like health is wealth. When you feel good, you look good, you do good. I'm unmuted by being transparent about how judgment and opinions can derail true happiness and health. Yeah, like when we judge ourselves, like having this place of coming to a place of non-judgment about our bodies can be so helpful and so freeing, because it's like our body is for us, like really at its core, right? Our body has so much capability. It's been through, all of our bodies have been through so much. We've healed from so much. We've recovered from so much, and we're capable of so much. And, we deserve to take a moment and just acknowledge that and say, like, thank you, to like thank our body, which is something that I like almost felt weird doing, but I was like, gosh, you've been through so much. And just to have a bit of compassion for yourself, like can be so powerful. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is something that's more recent that you and Thibaut, who's going to be on the show in October.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that you've done that's been amazing for us. Have been these, you'll have a better name for what it's called, but these like couples like retreat, like intimacy workshops where we're really connecting to being fully seen by a person. And even just an example of that witnessing of like the I see, I feel, having somebody call that out. Anything you want to share about like that practice? And I've got the book. There's a book called The Awakened Woman's Guide to Everlasting Love. I think it was written by the people that were your teachers.
Yep.
So anything you want to share just about what that journey has been like for you to help get unmuted and help see other people?
Yeah, I think the beginning, that was actually the other story. It's a long story, which I'm not going to tell in details, but that was the other story that I wanted to say. When Thibaut and I entered this journey, we were in a bad place as a couple. And I remember we've reached a point, there was something that happened that we reached a point. And at that time Justin was coaching us. And I said, Justin, I need to talk to you privately. So I reached out to him and I just started crying. And I said, I cannot do this anymore. I tried. I don't even know if I love him, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, tomorrow in our practice, I'm going to ask if there's anything that you want to say. And you're going to say everything that you just told me. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean I'm going to have to say all of this? Like, what if I lose him? What if my marriage ends? And he said, Lola, it already has. Everything that you do from now on is going to build something new. And that was the other time, that this work that we do in sacred intimacy is to really to be able to sit across from the person that, I'll speak for myself, the person that I genuinely love the most, and let him see the truth of the moment, which I talked about in the beginning, which is really all that is. So when we sit across, there's no pressure that I have to please him, that I have to do this, that we just continue to show up in the moment for each other. And to be able to be witnessed and held by him, it just keeps everything flowing, So I ended up doing it that day. I just sat in front of him and cried and said everything. And we finished that call with Justin saying, look, it's going to be really tender between the two of you for a while now. Don't try anything. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to have short, small conversations. Just don't. And I think for a few weeks, we would talk bare minimum because we had the kids. And we go to bed sometimes and we look at each other at night and no words, just staring. And then from that place of emptiness, we were able to begin to create something new. And now what we know with that, not only do we bring and teach other people, but it's a practice that we we know we're going to do for the rest of our lives, because being together is a choice that we have to make every day. Seeing the same person, going to bed with the same person, waking up with the same person. I mean, it takes a deep level of commitment. And only from that place of, truly being able to see the word intimacy, right? Into me, I see, so that I can see myself in him, in his container, in his gentleness, so he can see himself in my container, in my softness. That's really what keeps the energy moving. So instead of this work that we do in ourselves, now we're doing in partnership, which is 100 times harder.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to see my anger. Really, I don't. When I sit in front of him, I just want to be playful and hug him and dance with him. But sometimes it's really not what my body or my heart wants.
Yeah.
And I just have to be brave enough to be like, all right, are you ready? Buckle up. Coming.
We're backing the truck out, and we're just going to open the back, and it's going to just all come out, and I hope it doesn't crush you.
Yeah, it's never looked the same. He never knows what he's getting.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's one of the purest form of this work, because it's not, there's of course depth to it.
Yeah.
That you can get into the whole tantra and the love making and all of that stuff. You can keep going, but at the basis, that's needed for this breath to continue to survive, to not even survive, but to thrive. It's very important.
It is. And I love, Jill says here, I appreciate the transparency. Sometimes we get isolated and truly believe we're the only ones going through stuff. There's power in sharing our collective struggles and strengths. And I think,
so true.
I mean, you've done that too, like just coming into the experience when you're like, this is what we dealt with. And everyone's like, oh, okay. So it's okay to show up here, and I know that if people wanted to find out, I can't believe we're already at our time, that it's been
oh my
an hour.
God,
Is
that's
it unreal?
crazy. I know.
It's
Like
been
3 hours.
So I know Tim's going to drop your links in the chat, but where can people find you if they want to stay connected with your events, with your music, with you?
Yeah, I think right now social media is the best way. I have a website that's lolamanekin.com, but it's been completely revamped. It needs a full, update. So I think social media is the best way. I'm always, I'm super active in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love it. And it's Lola-Manekin, is that what it is? Or underscore?
So. Yeah.
And I know we should know this, right? should have this. I don't know, Nathan, if you can pull that. But in any case, or if you're on my Instagram, which is @unmutedlife, I tagged you in my most recent stories. So if people go on to mine, they can also find you there. But if you just search Lola Manekin, you will see her show up. And I would highly recommend following her on there. On Instagram, following your music, which I know is going to continue to evolve and emerge. And then you have retreats. I mean, you're about to go to Greece. You do retreats in Costa Rica. You do a retreat. So if people want to have an experience with you, they can check out, that's on your socials, I know as well, to get more information about how they could, wherever they are in the world, be a part of an experience that you're bringing to help do everything we're talking about today.
Yeah. Everyone who's ready to drop into deep embodiment, you're welcome to join.
Let's do it. And if you're ever in Baltimore, you have to just find her when you're in Baltimore and go to something that Lola offers, because truly, I mean, I say with complete sincerity that so much of what I've learned from you and experienced with you has been really healing for me, has been really expansive for me and my marriage and my body and my health and my soul. And so I'm tremendously grateful that you are in my life and that you are doing what you were called to do, because it's really amazing to watch.
I feel the same way, grateful, because I know that it takes trust, and I don't take trust for granted. So thank you for your trust.
Yeah, you are so welcome. So there we go. We've got it up on the screen. Lola_Manekin. Nailed it. Nathan dropped your Instagram handle on in the chat. Tom, no way. Owings Mills has a special place for me. Tom, you'll tell us about that. The next time you're here, I'm telling you, dude.
That's where I live.
How about this? That is so cool. Tom lives in California. But Tom, come over here. Come to the East Coast and hang out with us. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who joined us today, for all of your comments, for being present, whether you're watching the replay or the live show. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And Lola, thank you for showing up with your full embodied presence today. It's a gift.
Thank you, my sister. I'm honored.
Oh, thank you. All right,
Thank
everybody.
everybody.
We will keep you posted on the next show. Next Wednesday, we're doing back-to-backs because of my travel schedule at the end of September. So stay tuned for more on that. But otherwise, have a great rest of your week. And thank you all again for being with us today.